So how we can do it? There are ways being, why don't we, say for example, the government won't trust the citizens or citizens don't trust the governments. So there should be some way of transparency. Governments should have the transparent means, ways and means of communicating to the citizens, and citizens should have the right to know the information as well. So how? So I always thought about roles of librarians, because librarian as a third party can be involved in these two-way or channels. See, as a third party, they get involved, and they can be like intermediary to be involved in that through the library. So citizens come to the library, and then the librarian can explain the procedures of the government procedure, what the government is doing. So that's why I always think that the public libraries in Myanmar can play a good, major role, because we have 5,000 public libraries in the country. So that's how I always think the librarian's role is not just books and periodicals. With the ICT hub, I think their duties are complex, and the services that they can give it to the users are plenty, a lot. So that's why I always think of the role of librarians is critical in this sense.
There's in trust, in Myanmar, we're dealing with a very long history of an access denied culture where information wasn't shared. And so Dr. Tan, in talking about the transparency, there are three components, I think, that are going to be useful in building this trust. One is in the production of the content itself. So content, the information itself has to be generated. The second is in the transparency part, which is in the communication and the dissemination, sharing the information. But the third part, and that third part is where the mobile information literacy curriculum comes into play, is that it doesn't matter if the information is freely available if the people can't understand or make sense of this information. So there's the education part, the literacy piece that has to happen. And one of the things that was really prominent in the information symposium was many of the panels were discussing the problems of e-government, the problems of the education system, and all of these things. What it all came back to was that we needed a way to educate the general public about information. And I think that the only way that transparency of information and accurate information can work is if the general public also has an awareness of how to make sense of this information. So not just the access, but the understanding of what that means. And I think that with such a long-standing history of Myanmar's culture of access denied, this is going to take a little bit of time. We can't really say how long that's going to take, but the idea of working through Dr. Tan's organization, MBAPF, is that once he trained the 25 librarians, each of those master librarians can go to their regional libraries and train more people and train their constituents. And Dr. Tant is also talking about going now outside and beyond the library. That is through the different ministries. I think there are plans now for university and just many other organizations. The government, the ministries themselves, everybody has to understand why sharing information is important in this role of building trust, what that information should look like, and how they should educate in order to understand this. So it was interesting to hear the role of the educators in talking about how they needed to change not just the textbooks, but also how they teach and how students should learn. We're in an age now where people are independent learners. And so Myanmar's education system is going to have to adjust to this way of thinking. Information can't just be from a textbook, because most students will just get right on their phones and look the information up, right? So there has to be this culture of being able to understand how to deal with this in the education system as well.
So any input for do you want to add more about the mobile information literacy project, and also?
Sure. MIL is a really good curriculum. Yes, we would like to expand this project. Right now we already have the curriculum, But this can be expanded vertically as well as the horizontally, because the current existing curriculum can go in depth. So that is vertically, and we can add in some other curriculum as well, such as the making surveys, how to make an effective survey, how to conduct a good research. So we can add in some other the modules, such as we can use another powerful software such as Tableau, data visualization software. So depending on the clients, we can adjust the curriculum. So we are very much optimistic with this current existing curriculum, because this is very flexible, and we can, thanks to Sarah, we can make this curriculum very useful to many of the organizations here in Myanmar.
I want to emphasize too that this is, it's not just Myanmar that needs this kind of training, and we intentionally developed this as a new way of interacting with information, because so much of the world is coming online through a cell phone and not through traditional desktop computers or laptops. So we see this as actually being kind of an experimental deployment of this curriculum, and we have released the curriculum as an open curriculum, so anyone can use it, they can contribute back to it, and Dr. Thant has already developed some additional modules for it. We hope that others will do that as well, and that it will then spread throughout the world, and others can be able to take advantage of this, and hopefully help with some of the same issues that we see here in Myanmar.
So regarding trust, Dr. Thant, you've mentioned about the mobile information literacy is also bridge, a kind of link to get more trust and more development for our Myanmar society in transition. So Cheryl, do you want to put any thought for?
Sure. At the information symposium that we recently held, the final panel was the panel on the Myanmar elections most recently. And that was a concrete example of where trust, scarcity of information, those things came into play. And so, there was a real need to be able to get information out about the campaigns, about the candidates, about the procedure, about rights, just all of it in general. We had election monitoring that needed to be done, how people needed to make sense of this information. All of those things came together in this panel. And it was one of the most exciting discussions that happened at the end of the day. And I think that the Myanmar people themselves realized from this discussion about the election why literacy and information literacy, why the mobile information literacy was important. We had to be able to get that information out, and people had to be able to access that information as well.
Mm-hmm. So any thought?
I think the information literacy, the curriculum, the trainings, I think after that, the people who receive the trainings, they can play a major role when the government really initiated this e-government, because which government has been implementing that, but we haven't seen the reality so far. So when they implement that e-government initiative, I think we can play a major role in that.
So regarding trust, all the three speakers point out the transparency and trust, and also part of it's the bridge. Mobile information literacy will be the part of the solution for this kind of challenging for our Myanmar society transition period. So thanks for joining our talk show. You have been watching Myanmar Mobile Information Literacy Project. Thanks for joining us.